Hello, welcome to Not Just a Recruiter, the podcast that goes beyond the LinkedIn posts to explore how recruitment leaders actually build, grow, and survive. Today's guest is James Parkin, the founder of Ellison Coast. James has 20 years experience in recruitment and went solo to build a business that blends hiring, training, coaching, and bespoke talent solutions. He's intentionally built a one-person band that uses systems, AI, and smart workflows so he can deliver high-value work without burning out and still be there for his family. In this episode, we'll talk about why diversifying your service matters, when hiring isn't the answer, and how to run a profitable recruitment business on your own terms. Hello, James. Who is Ellison Coast?
Who is Ellison Coast? Yeah, that's interesting. I could tell you actually. So Ellison is my little boy's middle name, and I'm from Portsmouth, so I'm always happy by the coast. So I put the two things together so that when I start work every day, I'm constantly reminded of two things that I love. That's the genuine answer to that question. But also, it sounds quite nice. So Ellison Coast, yeah, I set it up in 2024, and it is it's a blended talent organization. So we have three pillars of service that I call guide, grow, and engage that I offer to customers. And there is contingent recruitment in there, but it is also training. And we have products that we've built with partner companies that service various needs. Then there's one-on-one coaching and training that I offer to internal recruitment teams, all the way up to C-suite level around effective best practice, money saving as well. And so really it's about taking an experience and skills based approach to assisting customers rather than just having kind of the one tool at your disposal.
And why do you feel that being a one-man band with this suite of products to offer, why does that give you a competitive advantage?
Yeah, that's a good way of phrasing that. I don't think that being a one-man band necessarily gives me a competitive advantage, but what it does give me is the ability to suit myself and to change course effectively immediately. The only people that I report to are my family and my clients. If they're happy, that's it. What it does do, though, is it enables you to take advantage of opportunities that come your way because you're only suiting yourself. So I think I mentioned to you when we spoke before, I'm coming up to the end of the first year with Ellison Coast, and there are some things that I've done in the first 12 months that I've enjoyed doing but haven't made any money. And so I have to take a look at that and say, well, do I want to carry those on because I enjoy them? Or do I have to focus my time on the things that's not that I don't enjoy, it's just they're maybe not so indulgent of me, but they do make money? And do I need to think about opportunities that I'm talking to people about right now that could make money for the business next year and add value for my community and my network and maybe replace things I was doing before? So, yeah, the ability to be able to look at that and say, well, what do I want to be doing, but what also earns the money, and how efficient is it in terms of time invested, return on investment, if you like, for me and my family. And so that's something that when you can do that for yourself, it gives you a lot of freedom. And I suppose finally that does give you the opportunity to be competitive because I don't have to say no to anything that a customer asks me. I can say, well, maybe let me have a think about it and come back to you.
What are some of those things that you were doing that you enjoyed but wasn't making you any money?
So there's some of the YouTube stuff. So we just talked about, I've been running a YouTube channel now for about 3 years and I've never monetized it. So it was never intended to make money. But as you'll know, recording the videos, arranging people to interview, recording the videos, editing them, that takes time. And then you need to promote afterwards, ideally, as well. And all of that takes time. And when you're one person and you want to be one person doing this, that is a proportion of the hours in the week you're going to work. And so you need to think, well, is it a nice to have, or do I do something different with it? And I think really that's kind of where I've arrived at, is I don't want to monetize it for the sake of monetizing it. And actually, I think a CX or contact center focused YouTube channel, there is an enormous audience anyway. So monetizing it would be very, very difficult and probably the wrong way to go. But there are other things you can do with the content that I'm creating that might have a value to an audience if it's done in the right way. Therefore, they'd be willing to pay for it. But it also means I get to do the thing that I enjoy. And so really, yeah, I'm not a content creator, but I do create quite a lot of content for a recruiter. So, it's thinking about ways to use that and add real value for the people that are consuming it, and therefore, be able to make it a revenue stream without making people feel like they're being ripped off, because that lasts no time at all. They need to buy into the journey and the mission, and therefore it needs to be real. So there's that.
What you just said, I completely agree with, because there is a fine line of, I guess, doing things for your personal brand and value, and at the end of the day, actually doing the things that, I guess, the jargon word for it might be needle moving. Taking your time away from actually reaching out to clients, picking up the phone, finding new candidates. You're right, it takes your time away from those. I guess from your perspective, as you said, your product suite does create a little bit of a competitive advantage in a way. Why do you think that is so important compared to some other bigger recruitment agencies who have a team of 50 consultants and they're in the same market as you?
So one of the things that's, I think, just perceived wisdom in recruitment and is being borne out by some numbers at the moment is go niche. And so for the last 10 years, I've done contact center, customer experience, customer contact, whatever you want to call it, as a sector, as a vertical, whatever you want to describe it as. And there's like a handful of companies that really do that. So can bigger companies do it? Yes. But it would take them time to break in and create reputation. So a lot of them tinker with it, but don't really understand it, judging by the adverts that I see posted on LinkedIn, where they're asking for everything from the cleaner to the CEO, and because they just don't understand what they're posting. They've got the jobs out of a client, but they don't know what it is. And that's not, it is a criticism, obviously, but it's not a criticism of the individuals. It's just they're not being trained and targeted in the right way, because that's not how the big machine works. The thing about the product suite is, this is something that I realized from talking to customers that I've worked with for a long time, post-COVID onwards, really, that what they needed, because of the pressures on them and the changes within my market, was evolving. And when you're an external contingent recruiter, there are two ways I see it. There are two ways to think about it. You either become a very specialist, very good single-use tool, or you become the toolkit. So I know recruiters that are extremely good at the one thing they do, and that is all they do. So that's great. If that customer needs that, they're going to call you. But if they don't need it, they aren't going to call you, because they know the answer is the same thing every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's, oh, let me check. Oh, no, I've got a hammer. Yeah, but I need a screwdriver. Well, we could probably try and drive it in with a hammer, because that's all they've got, right? They're the best hammer in the world, but they're just a hammer. The other option is to be a toolkit, where you still need to be very good at a number of things, and you have to actually really understand the purpose of that toolkit, and they need to complement one another. There's no point in having like a hammer and a tile cutter and a paintbrush. Those three things are never going to help each other. They need to be complementary, but then a customer can come to you and say, I have a problem, and you can say, well, maybe it's contingent recruitment, maybe you need a new hire, maybe your problem is retention, actually. Maybe your problem is training, or maybe your problem is promoting people, or maybe your problem is cost control. And we need to look at what you're doing around talent to manage that cost and plan better for the next 12 months. And they know they're not going to get just the same answer every time. And this isn't fluff, right? There's a million recruitment companies out there that will go, oh, we'll send you a salary survey. Who cares? It's rubbish. It's nonsense. It's PR nonsense. This is actual tools and products that will help them. So, it's training, it's coaching, it's advice on don't buy LinkedIn recruiter licenses. They're a total waste of money, for example. I spoke to one company about it at C-level, and I said, just don't do that. And they were like, that's saved us thousands of pounds. Why did we not do this before? And I said, because you're C-level and you don't think to ask, because you don't know what you don't know. But I've been saying to them for a while, ask me obvious questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There genuinely isn't.
I love that. I say that exactly
with respect.
Thank you. That is really interesting. You say that, like the salary sacrifice is a bit of like a a token piece in a way, kind
It's
of like
nonsense.
to try and not be transactional, like here's some value of a salary sacrifice.
If a client needs to know what the market salaries are for something, they'll just ask you.
Yeah.
So tell them, if you need to know, I'll let you know. That's it. If you've got an internal marketing team and you need to keep them busy, you give them projects like that to do, to create reports, to email out to customers, because it's another reason to contact them, because you're trying to keep in the forefront of their mind for brand awareness. You must be the first name they think of. Well, if you can't do that through any other means than just advertising, then that's when I think you do need to look at what else you're doing in terms of services. But other people will disagree with me on this, and they'll say, no, it's really valuable stuff and our clients love it. Okay, show me the value they've got from it once. Show me a company that's actually changed their mind because you've sent them an email with a bunch of numbers. It just doesn't happen. It's nonsense.
And also at the same time, oh, a recruitment agent might think that's providing value. It's not really differentiated. Someone's inbox will be full of other recruitment agencies saying, here's a salary survey, and then
Yeah.
those figures are different to those figures. I guess from your perspective, when you're meeting a new client, how do you go about, without going around skirting around it, how do you get down to business and and find out what is their core problem when they say to you, oh, we just need to hire some more people, or, we people are leaving every 6 months. What is the kind of strategy you take to really get down to business and find out what's behind that?
Well, so those are two different situations to start with. If it's a company I've never worked with before, I would always meet with, I typically try and deal at senior leadership level, because they are the people that are on the hook for the revenue number, and for costs. They are the people that can effect change within a business, and they must be bought in. I've worked with companies where I've sat with the leadership and within 5 minutes thought, no, like, just nah, this fella is just nah, I wouldn't work for him, so this isn't going to happen. And then I've worked with companies for over a decade where they're great, and you can see they believe in the mission and they stay the course, and then it's the right place to be. I think what you have to do is understand those people, understand why they're in it, and what it really is they need. So if it is we need to hire people, why are they hiring people? Is it because they've won a project? Is it because they just need to grow to create more bandwidth? Are they looking to generate more sales? Whatever it is, right? If they've got people leaving every 6 months, there's an inherent problem there. And that's going to be much harder to unpick. Typically, I don't like working with those companies. That's slightly counterintuitive, because they're great from a revenue point of view as a recruiter, because you're going to make fees all the time. But the most important thing to me as a one-man band or like niche recruiter is my network. The people that I place in jobs must trust me that I'm putting them forward to a job that I believe is good and right for them. I'm not doing it just for a paycheck, because otherwise they won't come back to me. And if you do that too much, you lose typically your best people. And word does get around and you lose other people as well. And it must be genuine. It has to be authentic. So if I think a company is just a sausage factory, I'm not really into it. Like, the big recruitment companies can deal with that, because the anonymity of their staff, people will change and come and go, and it doesn't really matter. If I was talking to someone about this the other day, and the terrible fact that people are my product. Recruiters are the only salespeople where the product can say, no, I don't want to be sold. And
Yeah.
if it does that too many times, you haven't got anything to sell. It makes me sound like a slave trader or something. It's awful, but that is the reality. My product, except for the services that I created, is people, and that's what customers want to know. All they really want to know is, can you get me people that I can't access otherwise quickly enough? And the answer needs to be yes. So you need to get down to those brass tacks, have a proper conversation, and understand the mission of a business. Then they either have a process which you advise on because it maybe isn't quite right, or they don't have a process and you help them build that. And that's really easy, because it doesn't matter really what sector you're recruiting in. Good recruitment practice is pretty much the same. Recruitment is recruitment. And you put a good process in place, and you make sure you've got the buy-in of everybody that's going to be involved in that process. And then you just go out and do your job. It's no real harder than that.
I completely agree with what you just said. And I think what's been really interesting for me in speaking with you already is how intentional you are about your time, and how you build your business. As a one man band, very intentionally, how do you actually allocate and manage your time across all the different aspects of your business?
Hmm. Yeah, that's something that's evolving, and I'm still learning. There's no right answer to that. I think I'm a big believer in a calendar. I'm super organized, but I will move things around. I'm a bit OCD, so everything has to have a place. Otherwise, it just tinkers away on the edge of my brain. So I have to get it. But I'm also quite lazy, so I don't like to hold things in my head. I put them down in a calendar, and then I follow that. But sometimes I have to move things around, and it's not just work, right? Yeah, I coach rugby team for the local rugby club. I'm starting to coach one for the school. I do all sorts of other social stuff and fitness things. And then within my work, there's multiple people that I work alongside of, and they all have to have their time, and you have to give it an appropriate amount of time. You can't give people short shrift. But, and we said this when we spoke before, I'm not one of these 5 a.m. and grind type people going on LinkedIn, the photo on a train station platform at 3 a.m. or, outside of a gym at like midnight. It gets stuffed, right? If you want to, like, I have a couple of real bugbears around. I don't really like the word entrepreneur. I just work for myself. I just set up my own business. That's it, right? I think entrepreneur comes very close now to influencer. Now, I don't like either of those terms. A couple of my bugbears are people think that they have to work 100 hours a week to get there. And I said this to you before. That doesn't impress me in the slightest. It does not impress me in the slightest. I spoke to a CTO at an investment bank in America a few years ago, and he was the epitome of what I don't like. He said, well, I'm in the office at like 5, we finish at like 8, 9. And then one time I couldn't get hold of him. And I spoke to him. He said I was in hospital because I had a heart problem due to stress. And I'm like, right. And I'm thinking, well, that's work related. And he said, but, still on emails. And that's the sort of culture we've got here. And I just went, well, game over. Not interested. You're an idiot. And yeah, that was it. Just ended the conversations right there. Because I'm like, no, you got it totally wrong. If you get your work done in 7 hours a day, then I'm impressed. Whatever your goals are, right? If you want to earn 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, $250,000 a year, $500,000 a year, if you can get that done in 7 hours a day, I'm impressed.
I think something
Yeah,
that,
that's it.
and I'm sure you've experienced this as well in your previous history working in a recruitment business, is I think there is quite a toxic culture within recruitment of to be expected to work really long hours, to be in the office by 8 o'clock and to be staying till 7 o'clock. Anyone who's not doing that is, not a hard worker. They're not committed. And that's something that I personally really struggled with in recruitment, because work is obviously important, but I really valued and having that work-life balance and leaving work at a reasonable time was really important. It was really important to me.
Theism.
Yeah, exactly. And you are completely right. Getting your work done in 7 hours and being successful is, to me, you're right, that is fantastic. Whereas being up late, working till late hours, you can kind of sometimes, and I've been guilty of it as well,
Yeah, as have I.
because I'm up late and it's nearly midnight and I'm still here in front of my laptop. I'm working really hard and I think, well, I could have done this earlier in the day and got it done and had, a better a balance. I guess, as you said, it's evolving, your time management is evolving. What are some of the like key systems and key like workflows, tools that you've already implemented?
An AI note taker is a good one. Big shout out Fireflies. I like it. It's good. It's so, now if I'm doing an interview like this, which increasingly are obviously over Teams, it's doing it for me in the background. So I'm not this from a pad with a pen the whole time. I can properly engage and I know it's all on record. And then I'm able to just simply copy that summary and put that into my CRM notes and then go back and challenge it. I had a situation recently where I've had multiple conversations with this person and I wanted to summarize quickly what the key values for them of finding the new role were. old days, I'd have had my pads, which are still sat here next to me, and I'd have been flicking through my notes and looking through my shorthand. And whereas I was able to ask it, inquiries on an AI database and just saying, what seemed to be the key values, what were the things to avoid, and it brought me back a short list with some justification on it. And I was like, yeah, that's it. And that took me a few minutes. And then I was able to structure that into a conversation with that candidate to recap the conversations we'd had over the previous week. And it brought it just all into clarity for both he and I, to be able to talk about whether the opportunity in front of him was the right one. Ultimately, it was. And that was really useful. And that's big time saver. So it's not AI for AI's sake. You might call it an agent, but it's actually doing a job. I've got a good CRM. Big shout out Loxo. I use those guys. It's good. I was recommended it by a chap I used to work with called Andy Hallett, who runs Required, the sort of association group for recruitment founders. And it was a good shout. It's a good platform. Someone said to me once, does the CRM get in the way of you doing deals? I think it's more than that. Does it actually help you? Because there are some rubbish ones out there. And Loxo does help. So that's good as well. But that's it. I kind of keep it simple. But when you're running your own business, I've also got to be on Zero. I'm speaking to my accountant. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm doing the marketing stuff. I'm building presentations for things. So I use Canva. So I've got all sorts of systems. But you've got to keep it simple, because otherwise I think you get drawn into servicing the processes you've created to make things simpler. And to your point about the hours and the culture of hours and like presenteeism. So when you run your own business, you do work all sorts of weird hours. And because it's your business, you care about it. It's a bit like, I guess it's a bit like being a dog walker versus being a dog owner, right? Dog walker is your job. You're employed to walk dogs. So you'll do that in the hours you choose to work. But if you've got a dog and your dog wakes up at 3 a.m. and wants to go outside for a wee, you get up and you do it, right? I don't own a dog, but I guess you do, right? Because there's a difference. So when it's your business, I might be sat there in the ad break, TV's on, and I'll look at my emails because I'm just, if there's an email I can answer now, I don't have to answer it in the morning. So if it's 5 minutes while otherwise it's an advert for Still It Bang or whatever, then I might as well do it. And don't feel like, I'm still working at 9 o'clock at night. If I'm on holiday, it's the same thing. If I'm sat there, with a beer by the pool, my little boy's playing, and I think, I've got a couple of minutes, I'll have a little look. I'm not going to get stuck into presentations and interviews and all this, but I will answer emails. And I say to people, WhatsApp me. I've got one number, it's business and personal. WhatsApp me and I'll answer it, because it's me you're buying. So it matters to me. So it doesn't feel like work. It's not quite that cliche of find a thing you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's more like build something that matters and it doesn't feel like work.
Thank you for saying that, because that was literally about to be the exact same words that come out of my mouth, is like building a business that doing those day-to-day things and doing those small things doesn't feel like a huge chore. It's just what you do because you just want your business to grow. Going back to what you were saying about the AI note taker, anyone that uses Google Meet, I use Gemini to do all the transcript note taking. It's fantastic. It's funny because I think, oh my God, how did I used to be on the phone and I was constantly like typing away, like speaking to someone, and you're kind of like trying to listen to them, but also trying to type. And
Think of the next thing to say.
yeah, I like most AI things now, you think, what did I do before? What did I do before this? And it is really good, like you said, to be able to look back and draw themes from other conversations and things like that is really, really valuable, especially when you're having multiple conversations with people.
Yeah.
I guess now moving forward, as you said you have a family and the business grows. What are some of the areas, or what are some of the most important things that you'll be focusing on now for Ellison Coast?
Well, there's a couple of projects that are under wraps, so I can't say anything about that. But if people keep an eye on Ellison Coast, they'll see some stuff out by the end of November. They're really exciting. I think going to be really valuable. And again, they're unique things. A couple of the things that I've built are unique. And there's a challenge in selling that, right? If you build the best ladder in the world, the hammer, I'll go back to the hammer. If you build the best hammer in the world, everyone understands what a hammer is and what it does, right? When you build something that no one's ever seen before, they understand the need for it, but they can't quite fit it in their brain. So marketing is something I need to get better at, because we keep building these things that no one's ever seen before. And then they go, that makes all the sense in the world, but they can't quite work out like what budget it comes out of or who's responsible for it, because it's a training product that does something that makes all the sense, but they've never seen it before, or it's talent and training, or it's community. And so there's all sorts of things going on. So yeah, I think another shout out to Andy Hallett. When I set this up and I spoke to him, he said, you will find yourself doing the things that make you money. And he's absolutely spot on. He's a wiser man than me, that's for certain. So there is that. And that's kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, reviewing what's worked, what hasn't, but keeping the enjoyment in it and the engagement. You can't get bored when it's your own business, because there's no one else to do it for you. So you've got to be willing to do things and commit to them, but also enjoy them. So that's, I've got to, for the first time, sit down and analyze what happened in my business, which is just me, for a year, and what worked and what didn't, and what I would change and what I would keep, and review everything, really, which is kind of a weird self-indulgent thing to sit there and go, I'm going to spend, this is one thing I'm not very good at, and I have got better at, is allocating time, big blocks of time, to working on my business rather than in my business.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things, is that end of year review analysis, actually going away from the desk that I work at, going and sitting in a hotel lobby or something where I can peacefully just focus and work out exactly what happened. Cold, hard truth, no fluff. So I wasn't going to do, not consciously, I realized I wasn't going to do that, and realized that was a mistake. So built in the time to do it. And so it's things like that you've got to get, because otherwise you could be head down and just keep going forever, right? And then sort of come up for air occasionally and go, oh, I'm billing well, but what am I building? And why? What are you building for what reason?
That is so important. And it's funny, actually, I told you I'm going on holiday, and that's my plans for next week, is to work on my business, not in my business, but also as well for any business owner, whether you're in recruitment as well, is you spend all day speaking with candidates and your clients, and you're working with your consultants if you have a team, and not allocating that time to take a step back, and work on the business away from those things, like you said, can actually kind of drag you back and hold you back as well from growing the business.
Yeah, I think you miss opportunities, right? If you don't stop and put your head up and take a breath, you don't see the big picture, right? You just see what's happening in the next day or the next week. And recruiters were very good at, because people's brains are KPI wired, it's, how many of these have I got this week? How many of these have I got this month? And so what happens is a week and a month and a year go by very quickly for recruiters, and I think salespeople in general, because we're wired to look at the next target. Whereas actually you need to be able to step back and think about the whole picture, and have a golden thread through what you do, right? What is it you're actually trying to do? Is it genuinely, I've set this business up to do 2 deals a month, every month, for the rest of my life until I retire? Is it really that? I doubt it is for anybody. There's going to be some sort of golden thread, and you need to be able to look up and go, is what I'm doing getting me there? If not, is that okay for 6 months? Because it probably is, depending on your age and how near that goal is. But otherwise, I need to adjust and make sure I am getting to that point, because otherwise time will catch up with me. And as a wise man once said, time is the only currency we spend without knowing how much we've got left in the bank. And you'll get to a point and you'll go, oh, I've run out, and that's it. So you need to take that time to think about the big picture.
I think probably now, like you said, about time, it's crazy. It's now Q4, and a lot of people are thinking, oh my God, it's the end of the year. Where is the year gone? Like, what have I achieved? What did I think I was going to achieve? And what have I actually done? I guess rounding it up, if as a recruitment leader, he or she's listening to this today, thinking, I really need to diversify what I'm offering in my market, and they're thinking of potentially training, they're potentially doing something else. what do you think is the first steps and the first thing they need to nail down to really figure that out?
I would go to the clients that I like working with the most, and I would do an annual plan. So whenever their financial year runs, I would say, what is your headcount plan and what is your plan regarding talent, retention, training, growth for 12 months? Understand what their budget is, like their whole budget. Oh, we can spend 100 grand on external recruitment. Okay. What value are they looking for from that? Is it just about they're going to need 10 people? Well, what happens if half the team quit? Because that 100 grand isn't 10 people. Now it'll have to be 15 people. And how do they dice that?
Yeah.
And try and secure as much of that commitment and budget as possible by offering them an overall package that meets their needs. Because then what you've got is steady revenue and income. You're not just working on a one-by-one basis where you don't know what the next month's going to look like. Then what you need to do is look at those clients as a whole, that hopefully there's more than sort of 2 or 3 that you're working with, and say, what are they all talking about? Especially if they're in a sector, a niche. What seems to be their challenge? Is it lack of talent, which is a very common one, and that's where training is nice and easy to offer? Is it growth? Is it growth of management skills? Is it graduate attraction? Is it they've got a lot of people who are probably going to churn out because they've been in the business 10 years? Well, what's their overall challenges, right? And then think, okay, with what I have available as a recruiter, which is data and a lot of it, how can I help? Now, the chances are, if you're going to try and diversify into building some sort of training solution, you will need a partner on this. So you then probably want to look at your candidate base and think, who do I know? Who's good? Who's respected? Who do I trust? Hopefully that's all one person. And would they do something with me to build a solution for customers? You can't, unless you are a recruiter and a professional trainer, it will come off as just a recruitment company trying to sell snake oil. And it can't be that. It has to be authentic. You need partners that bring different skill sets and different backgrounds to the project. When you've got that, you need to sit down and work out what it looks like, because you can build a training product, digital, and that's once it's expensive, but once you've built it, you can sell it over and over and over again. Or is it a training service with instructor-led training, in which case that person that you engage with, are they doing that? Do they have the time to do it? How much can they commit to it? If you sell one package, is it worthwhile? What happens if you accidentally sell 50? Can they service all of it? What's the fallback? So you need to have all those conversations and think about what it looks like. And then if you're really honest about your niche and your sector, that is the time to then go and talk to people about what you're going to build and get the feedback and take it on board. If everyone says, this sounds great, okay, well, how much would you pay for it? How much? Yeah, and does the individual pay for it that's training, or do companies pay for it? Or do government organizations pay for it? Like if you're trying to get unemployed back into work or whatever. And so you need to think about all these things. It is quite layered and it does take time, but it will be worth it when you do it. And always engaging your clients that you interviewed initially on this and saying, well, this is what we're building. This is what we're thinking. This is what it looks like. People will throw all sorts of curveballs at you, and you'll get better at answering those pitches as you go through it. So it's all about communication engagement through the product build. And then when you've got it live, launch it like Sting. You just go everywhere with it, tell everyone about it, and, best of luck to you, really. And I think it's also about, through those conversations, thinking, what other value can I add? I'm a big proponent of skills-based work. So it's not just, I'm a recruiter. Okay, we'll break that down. You can talk to people because you interview people. That means probably you can present. You can put together a job description. You can put together a CV. That means you can actually write, which means you can write proposals. You're also aware of what's happening in the market. So you could advise people on competition and customers. You could put together analysis and market reports if you're that way inclined. Some people might be more mathematically brained than I am. I'm more English and literature structure. And you start to look at that. These are all my skills. How can I stack them up in different piles to offer different services and different jobs to customers? It's not just, I'm a recruiter, because if you think like that, one day our jobs will run out. They won't exist anymore. But your skills you gather as a human can be put into all sorts of different piles. And best of luck to AI trying to beat all of those, because it won't happen, because you'll have that human element underneath all of them that is crucially important. Then you can say, well, I've been asked to go and talk at events about different things because I'm happy to stand up and do that.
Yeah.
You can create content like this, and you can do all these different things that are a mixture of your skills. And that's another way of diversifying out your business, and potentially, if you've got consultants below you at a fairly senior level who are great at that as well, to diversify out their business as well and keep them really engaged.
James, I think a lot of what you said today is either A, going to make a lot of recruiters take a bit of a look in the mirror and feel a little bit not guilty, but have a good reflect on how they are carrying on their business, but also walk away with some really, really valuable next steps and what they can do regardless of what market they're in. Thank you so much. I have really, really enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward to seeing the projects that launch later this year.
Yeah, keep an eye on the Ellison Coast LinkedIn page around November time, late November, and you should see some stuff get announced out there then.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.